Welcome to episode 2 of Cit Up Straight. Now, today I'm going to be joined by Stuart Lawrence. For those of you that don't know Stuart, he is the brother of Stephen Lawrence, who was tragically murdered in 1993. And I'll let Stuart, when he arrives, tell you a little bit more about his story. Now, thank you to those that have sent in some questions. I will do my best to put them to Stuart. I know he's very comfortable talking about Stephen, and we're going to be talking all things about the current Black Lives Movement matter. It's a really interesting opportunity that we've got with us today, and I'm very, very honoured and very privileged to be able to interview someone of Stuart's sort of stature and everything that he's done for the Black community and the Black Lives Matter movement. He certainly made a difference, and I want to sort of press him on some current issues and perhaps where we go from that, and hopefully we can get some answers and we can, have a really interesting debate. Now, before we go and before Stuart arrives, the Stephen Lawrence case is something that we do cover in Citizenship. We do cover it when we look at Theme B and Theme C, which is the Democracy in Action and the Law and Justice module. And we look at the effects of Stephen's case and how that's impacted on British law. Now, by the end of this podcast, I'm hoping that all of you will know Stephen's story. And if not, I really look forward to teaching you this when it comes to the right time. Stephen was murdered because of the colour of his skin. And there was no two ways about it. That's what ultimately the attack was about. Stephen was a black teenager and he was attacked by a group of white teenagers. It was a group versus one individual, and unfortunately for Stephen, he lost his life because of it. And it took Stephen's family a very, very long time to get justice. And even, from 1993 to 2020, Stephen's name's still in and around the press, and his family are continuing to fight and get recognition for equality for people who are black and equality for everybody. They've changed the justice system in some respects, in many ways. Now, we have got loads of questions to get through today, and like I said, thank you for sending those in. I do hope that we can get through all of them. I'm not sure how much time Stuart has on his hands, but we'll see. Now, he's arrived, so I'll let Stuart in. And hopefully the technology keeps up to date with us.
Hello.
Hi, Stuart. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad.
Fab. How's it going?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Just back-to-back meetings.
Oh, I can imagine.
A little bit busy at the moment. A little bit busy, but no, it's all good.
It's getting you through the day, though, right?
100%. Listen, the day's turning. I think so far, the earliest I've been to bed in sort of like the last week is probably about 12:30, with the latest being sort of 3:30.
That's insane.
Yeah. Intense, but as I said, I'm one of those people that I like working better at night time than during the day because I'm a bit of a night owl. But
yeah,
it's just as I said, it's getting through it though. But like I like to structure. I like to be busy. I like doing lots of things because then it does make feel like I'm actually contributing. And as I was saying to everyone, my diary was stuffed before COVID, and then COVID happened, and then it was just really empty. And I was just like, oh gosh, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
How am I my time? But yeah, it's been filled immensely. It's been filled.
Good.
So.
I just want to start off by saying thank you for joining us today. We look at Stephen's case in Citizenship, and it's something that I really wanted to sort of my pupils to cover. There's so many parts of our syllabus where they're shocked by sort of the history of what's gone on, and they've had no idea about the past in our own country, and never mind sort of further afield. But can I just get you to start by just introducing yourself and sort of telling us a little about Stephen, and then we'll some of our people to put for you.
Yeah, so Stuart Lawrence, Stephen's younger brother. So I was 16, and as I said, my life changed dramatically forever. And since that point going forward, what I like to say to people is what I've tried to do is I've tried to have the mantra of asking myself this simple question, which would be, what would Stephen want me to do? So, whenever I find it hard or I come to sort of a roadblock or something, I close my eyes and ask myself, what would Stephen want me to do? How would Stephen want me to act? Because he was that ultimate older brother, and he always would set a good example for me. And he was very good at all the things that he would do: sports, school, friendship groups, wearing the good latest clothes. So that admiration I had for him and the way he held and carried himself is something that I still think about today and try to live my life by, and try to do the same for my younger sister as well. Because I have got a younger sister who's 5 years younger than me, but 8 years younger than Stephen. So when Stephen passed, I tried to make sure that my sister could see me in the same light that I saw my brother in going forward.
I mean, you've got family as well, haven't you? You've got a younger son.
Yeah. I've got a young son, 9, who's being homeschooled at the moment by my wife in the other room. And he's my life now. And I came to parenting a little bit later than some of my other friends did, but it's the best thing. It's the reason why I get up in the morning and work as hard as I work, because I want him to have the best life possible. I really do. And that's only going to happen if I make sure that I work as hard as I can to make his path as easy as possible.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of good things that have came out from Stephen, and we're going to look at some of those later on. But I just wanted to say that one of our teachers ran the London Marathon. I think it was last year or the year before, and her ultimate goal was to get to mile 18. And is it mile 18? I think.
Yeah. So last year because it seems so long ago now because everything's gone up. But yeah, so 2018. The London Marathon, we worked at London Marathon, and with some architect students, they allowed us to design the mile marker, the 18 mile marker. And so basically, to be an architect takes 7 years. The first couple of years, you don't get to do much. There isn't much exposure or opportunities to really hone your craft of being an architect. And so we realised this, and we made this competition up for Part 1 students to give them a really good step in their next Part 2 before they go into their Part 3, and to give them access to what it's like to be at Part 3 before they even got there. So yeah, this competition went around the country. All the universities were invited to take part, and so 2 girls and a guy won the competition to design mile 18. And that was just such an emotional thing. And it was so. This year would have been even more emotional because we're still working with the London Marathon, and then this year they allowed us to design all the mile markers. The whole race, so all 26 would have been designed by an architectural student in Stephen's name. And so for those things to happen, I remember going to watch the marathon with Stephen. We used to get up early in the morning. We used to live in Woolwich, so that was one of the main routes past. There was a big water station by the army barracks. We used to go and help out, give out water to the runners. So what a full circle thing to be, be there handing out water to these people, and all of a sudden now people are running through these markers that's been built in Stephen's name. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy to what has happened since he's lost his life. And that's what I always try to say to young people, like, something tragic really did happen, and we as a family have suffered some real hardships, but out of it so much good has happened. It hasn't been in vain, and that's one of the positive things. Lots of young people lose their lives through stupidness, through different things, but their names are not always remembered. By their families are remembered, but not by society or the greater public.
So, I mean, that leads me on to, it was a couple of years ago that Theresa May gave you Stephen Lawrence Day.
Yeah.
And, that I'm sure that was a sort of a very memorable moment for you to get recognition.
I said so. My mum has always been fighting and working towards, and my dad as well, towards this sort of goal of never allowing his name to be forgotten, or never allow his name to be associated with just, it was a black boy that was killed. And so she always had this thing about, she wanted kids to learn about it. She wanted the lessons to be learned, so no other family had to go through what we did as a family went through. So in 2018, once it was announced, that was another major watershed moment, because now, as an organisation, as a brand, we're not just focusing on, and we didn't always focus on London. That was never our focus, but it just so happened that way, where the trust was set up and our reach, and we did work with other schools around the country, but not really in a sort of real uniform, productive way. But this now has given us a brilliant vehicle to say to all schools, look, we're not about asking you to do anything that you don't do already, because that's also what it is. Schools are doing a wonderful job in trying to teach kids and educate kids, not just about those subjects in life, but just about life in itself, and those, the pitfalls and the joys that you go through life, and how we need individuals who can articulate themselves and to give an argument for both sides sometimes, or for one side that's maybe not being heard in the room, and to be able to affect people and change hearts and minds. That's what I believe the essence of education is all about. That's why
it's all education, isn't it? It's not just sort of your subjects; it's the rounded individual.
Yeah. For me, being a form tutor was better than being a subject teacher, because you get to know their personalities, you get to know them, you get to know what they like and don't like, you get to see their hopes and dreams, especially if you have a form from year 7 right through to year 11. That transformation of students is amazing, and it's only now, after 15 years, I'm able to look back and reach out to some of the students that were in my form, and I'm just like, wow, look what you guys are doing. I knew that you'd be doing this. I'm surprised at what you're doing. It's just such a beautiful thing. It really is.
We're lucky here. I'm up in Darlington at Wyvern Academy, and we've only got 500 pupils in the entire cohort from year 7 to 11. So we really can get to know everybody, and that's one of our main strengths at school, that we know people's stories and we can see them flourish from year 7 right the way through to when they leave us at the end of year 11. So it's remarkable what an education can do. It's not just the lessons; it's like you say, it's the life lessons that you learn from it.
Giving us the space to do that as well. I think that's also, with all the pressures that we're under as teachers, I think that's all sometimes gets a little bit lost. That is also part of our job. The what's it called? Not vocational. What's it called? Pastoral care. That's what I wanted to say. The pastoral care of teaching is also super important, I believe, as well.
Absolutely. You mentioned there about sort of people knowing Stephen's name now, and your family never letting Stephen's name be forgotten. If we move across the pond with what's going on currently with George Floyd, obviously social media has played a massive part in sort of getting George's name known across the world. Do you think if social media was around in sort of when Stephen was murdered, do you think that more people would have got that exposure to?
Do you know what it is? I think with the George Floyd situation, and this is what I was saying to someone yesterday, which is, we're in a beautiful position now, and it can be a beautiful position, but it also can be quite negative as well, that anyone anywhere in the world, if you have a smartphone and if you have mobile data connection, can go live and shows the rest of the world a window, an insight to what's happening at that moment in time somewhere. And that's a powerful thing, because usually we have to wait for media outlets which are controlled by a group of people that may have a certain mindset or have a certain agenda. So therefore, that's all that we're seeing. So I was saying, who knows what would have happened if camera phones and smartphones, because there were people at the bus stop, there were people on the bus. So, if someone saw something like that, the first thing people do is take their phones out and start recording, because they want to know that they have some sort of evidence to show someone what they saw. Yeah. So, it could have been and might have been completely different. Will Smith said it, racism isn't something new. It's just that we're now recording it all. That's all that's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. There's just more attention on it, isn't it? It's always been there. It's just, it's more evidence. When I was doing some research for this, I came across John Barnes, one of the first major black football players in England, and he said that he didn't experience racism; he just experienced racist incidents.
Yeah.
Is that something that you can sort of resonate with? Or?
Yeah, and before, so where I was brought up in Southeast London, very multicultural. I lived on a housing estate, very multicultural. My primary school, very multicultural. And I tell people all the time, I never had anyone say anything to me where I had to go, oh, that was a bit funny. Why did they say that to me? I never knew racism or what it meant to be a racist incident until what had happened to Stephen. Now, that might have been some of my naivety because I was only 16 at the time. And I hear from my cousin who is 21, so he would have been 5 or 6 years older than me. His experience at school was slightly different from my experience, where there was still elements of segregation where, the black kids hanged around with the black kids and the white kids hanged around. So, it's taken time, but I think we was on a journey where it was getting better when it was my childhood. So I never, where Stephen died, 200 meters from that, I used to walk down that road and take a bus up and down that road every Friday and Saturday night to go to my friend's house who lived 200 meters from where Stephen was stabbed. So it was crazy. It wasn't an area where my parents would say, oh no, you can't go to that area because it's a bad area or there's lots of racist people there, because it wasn't like that. But I always say to people, kids are not born racist. It's us adults or adults that teach kids about those things, those thoughts, those beliefs, those ways of doing things, those ways of acting, the ways of speaking. That comes from us adults.
So it's learned behaviour, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely learned behaviour, 110%. I know for a fact. I go around to primary schools, I go around to secondary schools. Primary school kids, their filter is unrelentless. Like they literally think it, see it, say it.
Absolutely.
Right. That's them. Like, but
it's not offensive, though, is it? It's just it's observations. It's
100% because I believe if you don't know, if you don't ask questions, how are you going to know? If you've got something going on in your head and you're like, why? If you don't then go, ask the question. And that's why I always encourage my son, ask the question. I can see you've got something like you. I can see the little face of yours. Ask the question. What don't you know? What do you want to find out? Because in asking questions, by exploring, by scratching the surface of things, that's how you learn. But we also learn by watching others as well. So we need to be careful as adults of the way that we act, the way that we behave, the way that we do things, because little ears are always watching and listening.
I mean, that leads us nicely on to sort of all this debates that's going on in the press recently about all of these statues that are up around the country, about perhaps that they've, again, perhaps had racist incidents, but not known for being racist.
Yeah.
I watched Good Morning Britain this morning and saying like statues of Winston Churchill and sort of George Washington. George Washington may have had sort of things to do with the slave trade, but is known as the founding father of America. He's not known as predominantly being a racist. So the removal of all these statues is sort of where would you draw the line? Is it a clear cut? Have they had racist incidents? Yes, remove them, or is it a case of because there's so many incidences and statues with saying, well, he's had one incident of this and he said that once and they've sneezed that wrong way.
One racist incident is okay. 2 or 3 is really bad. You've got to remove. So my point here is this: who writes the history to say whether they're a good person or a bad person? Who writes that history? Because surely that then dictates what we know about that person or don't know about that person. And that's also what this is. The narrative for black people, I'm afraid, for a long time hasn't been a positive, good narrative, even though there are some amazing, beautiful, productive, groundbreaking people of colour.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my point. I sat there, and this is why homeschooling has been so good for me. So I sat there listening to my son, learning about the kings and queens of this country. I asked myself this question: why does my son at 9 years old need to know what the difference between King Richard II, King Richard III, Henry VIII, Henry VII? Why does he need to know all the differences between the kings and queens? And that's for me about preserving the monarchy, preserving the queen. So therefore, when he sees the queen in all her regal, he understands the importance of her. So the same way that we're teaching kids about that is the same way that we need to be teaching kids about everything.
Hmm.
We can't pick and choose. We're only going to tell them the good bits about here. We're not going to tell them about. We've got to tell them everything, because in my opinion, history is about the good side, the bad side, and what is your opinion of how you think it lies. That's what history is about for me. But the history can only be told by those that survive it as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the good things about being an English teacher. When we look at literature, we look at the context behind maybe a poem or a book. I love delving into it, and I think it's important to cover the history. And we do a poem, checking out my history. John Agard, if you're familiar with him, and his poem is a criticism of the British education system, that there's not enough Black history.
Yeah.
He says, we can learn nursery rhymes about Dick Whittington, and we can learn all of these things about going to the moon. But people like Nanny de Maroon and all of these inspirational black people who have done something, medical workers, health workers, slave trades, abolishing things, we don't learn about that. It's sort of here is what white history. This is what's important for you. And his poem is just a very big criticism of the educational system there. And it led me to think about whether or not we failed to teach about that. If we look back at textbooks, and I was having a debate with my colleagues the other day about racism. Even though it exists, people might not think it exists in the way it does. And I phrase it like this: of if I walk to the shops and I want to get a birthday card for my niece, I can go and find one with a white princess on the card, and I would probably have to visit maybe 6, 7, 8 shops, a specialist shop, to find a princess with a black girl on.
Yeah, that's true.
And just things like that. When I'd actually sat down and thought about it, even though it's something that I advocate, I thought that's where it exists, and it's hidden.
Definitely. I'll give you another example. Band-Aids, plasters.
Mm-hmm.
It is only now that they have brought out plasters of different skin tone.
Yeah, I saw that. We had that same debate, and it's mad that even things like that are unnoticed.
Yeah, but but that's also what I say, and what I don't want this to be, or this to come across as I have a problem or I have a chip on my shoulder, because I don't. I don't have a problem with what's happened beforehand. I'm sorry, not I don't. I have an issue with what's happened beforehand, but I've not allowed that issue to make it to be a chip on my shoulder where I feel like I'm a victim and the whole world's against me and it's unfair. I don't think like that, and it's very easy it'd be very easy for me to go, oh yeah. It's like, what I am saying is, now that we have this chance and this realization and this awakening that everyone's now had, let us do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is wrong, it's so deep rooted, and its policies and its institution and its establishments and its government. It's been going on for such a long time, in such a way that some people haven't seen, whereas other people have always seen it. That's also what this is. We've all, as a black person, I've been going through this since I've had that realization about my skin color and how other people perceive, look at me, think of me just because of the color of my skin.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that leads on to, I mean, we mentioned earlier that there was lots of things that came out of sort of Stephen's death, and sort of the change that you and sort of your mother and your family have advocated for. I mean, when I teach it, we look at the Macpherson report and we look at sort of the 70 changes that they recommended. Now, to my recollection, most of, if not all of them, have been implemented in some form. But still, sort of
bits and pieces. There's been attempts, I do believe, there's been attempts. I would say attempts have been made. Have they been fully integrated into the whole of society? And this is also a little bit of a caveat where people say, well, yeah, look, Stu, it's more diverse and there's more people of colour around, and it's more open opportunities for everyone. That's only stage one.
Yeah.
That's only stage one. My question, which goes back to this whole thing about policies, rules, laws, institutions, practices, the way things have been done. If you've always done things a particular way, just because you've got some people of colour in your establishment doesn't mean things have changed.
Absolutely.
It just means you've got some people of colour inside your establishment. Their lived experience through your establishment is what we need to be checking in with.
Mm-hmm.
When which companies don't do. If you ask a company how diverse they are, they can give you stats and figures of how many people. But no one does the checking or finding out of what is their lived experience in that company like.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be really good to look at one of the big multi-billion-pound corporations and say, let's find an individual who's been at this company, say, 20 years, and let's ask them what their experience has been in that company and how many times they've been in an incident where they thought, and that's also what it is as well, because you question yourself as a black person. You question yourself. Now, did that just really happen? Was that someone saying the questions and the way that you have to break things down is almost soul destroying at times, because you then come to a point of asking yourself, well, do you want to rock the boat? Do I want to be the person to rock the boat? And if that job's your livelihood, that you put food on the table for your children, and you don't know by rocking the boat whether you'll still have a job or not, you're not going to rock the boat. You're gonna swallow it and go, do you know what? For the greater good, I need my job.
Yeah, and on the basis of that, sort of swallowing your pride and sort of just getting on with things. When I was looking at it, I mean, I know that you've been sort of stopped and searched by police numerous times because of inherently the colour of your skin. And when I looked at some research from sort of the Macpherson report, still, even though there's sort of these protocols and these suggested amendments and the sort of they're attempting to get things better, in some regions, people who are black are 29 more times likely to get stopped and searched from the police because they fit the description of somebody in that area. I mean, what's your experience with stop and search?
So the clearest way I can indicate this for the experience is this. There's two things I can say. The first thing is, I've been stopped less than a meter from parking my car at my house. So I was coming down the road, the police car was coming back the opposite direction from me, okay? The policeman looked at me, okay? I looked at him, okay? And then the car's passed.
I mean, that's, isn't it? It's momentary glance of...
Yeah. Now, he didn't even check my number plate, because if he checked his number plate, he would have realised that car was going into its where it was registered to be kept.
Mm-hmm.
And even if he thought, I don't know who's in the car, obviously, common sense then tells you, if the car's going back to where it's been kept, then 9 times out of 10, that's probably going to be the owner of the car. He didn't even do the check. He spun the car around, he pulled up, and first question was, why are you stopping me? I'm like, dude, you didn't even do a VIN check. If you had done the VIN check, you would have known the car was associated of this establishment where I'm getting out now to go into my house.
And how long ago was this?
So Theo is 9. This would have been about 6 years ago. And this is probably the last time I've been stopped. About 6 years ago.
But still, that's fairly recent. It's, we've got the technology there to check. It's not like.
And that's why. But again, it was a white officer and it was an Asian officer, and it's just the way that he was speaking to me I really didn't appreciate. And this is also, I know that if I'm stopped, I don't raise my temper, I don't scream and shout, I don't get in anyone's faces, because that is liable for them to say they feel threatened. Once they feel this officer feels threatened, then a whole set of powers then they can use and
force and everything. And it's
And when I turned to the Asian officer and said, can you understand why he's speaking to me like this? Because I'm not being rude or aggressive, and I don't appreciate, he's not doing nothing wrong.
Mm.
And it's the vindication of the acceptance. And it's only now that I've done more research and more investigation into all this, the police force, with the best intentions in the world, the problem is when you're a new recruit, they send you out with more established or experienced coppers to go out with.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if that more experienced copper has a slanted view on the way he feels like things should be done, then he's passing that on to the younger generation.
That's it. And so back to that learned behaviour idea again, isn't it?
There you go. So therefore, all we're doing is just operating the problem, because it's inherent. It's in your institution. Unless you go in and weed it all out, it will always be in your institution, and it always will then have a way of being passed on to someone else.
Absolutely. I mean, what's a real shame? I mean, the reason why all of this is back in the news again is because somebody's had to have died for people to raise the issue again. I mean, you know, I've done the reading. Last week there was the sort of the blackout Tuesday across social media. And it just worries me that people sort of jump on the bandwagon whilst they're supporting the cause and raising awareness about it. Where are they the other 364 days of the year when something needs to happen? You know, I mean, people tweeting in support of George Floyd, and rightly so. But just because you post one square on Instagram or Twitter or wherever, then there's the people that jump in with the protests and rightly protesting, and then you've got the rioters and the looters. And again, are you worried that perhaps the whole idea of the incidents from George Floyd and sort of the atrocities that have come from that, the fact that this message of actually supporting the hashtag Black Lives Matter is being lost because all we're talking about now is graffiti and criminal damage, and the fact that it's diluting the process of what we're actually talking about, isn't it?
Yep, definitely. And it goes again with the media outlets and the narrative of the story. And that's why I understand people are upset. I understand that they're frustrated. I understand that it comes to a point where you feel like, well, what else can I do? I would ask from the bottom of my heart that if you feel like you're the most excitable person, you can't contain yourself, stay in your house. Mm-hmm. Don't go out there. Post on social media. Yeah, rant on the phone to your friends. Do that. Because at this moment in time, we need to ensure the message is absolutely clear. And for me, the message is, my son will not fight this fight. This is my fight, and mm-hmm. I'm going to make sure that I know it's not going to be a sprint. It's not going to be a short thing. I know this is a marathon, but I am in this for the long haul. And yes, we need people to protest. Yes, we need people to be upset. But we all need to be mindful of the message of how things are being done. The beautiful example you can give anyone is Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. Malcolm X at first hated Martin Luther King. He thought he was too soft. He was like, "You're never going to make no progress doing this. You know, you've got to be standing up for yourself, be more aggressive." But it wasn't until Malcolm went to Mecca and came back, he then realized and said, "Do you know what? Martin has got it right. Yeah, we can kick, we can scream, but they're not going to listen." It's only when you sit down and you really have an in-depth, true conversation with someone and share your point of view and let them talk and then you talk and have that dialogue is when things will truly change. And that's what this is now. We're at a point where we can enforce real change. We can, because the whole world is paused and life that normally would be going on isn't going on. So while we've got this time, let us solve a huge world problem right now. Because this isn't an insulated problem just for England or just for United Kingdom. It's a worldwide problem. You can see that by all the protests around the world. Mm-hmm. You can see that also by the mixture of people that are protesting. An interesting fact I like to bring up to students, which is, as a black person in this country, as a percentage, we are 3%. How's a minority of 3% going to convince the other 97%, that we are equal, we matter, we have a voice, we have a point of view, we need to be treated exactly the same as the rest of the 97%? If we don't ask some of the other 90% to get on board and help us with this fight.
No, you're absolutely right there. I mean, it's all over the news outlets and it's all over sort of social media. And I was watching Good Morning Britain this morning, and they'd had a debate between sort of a white man and a black man, and they were talking about sort of current TV shows, and they were saying things like David Walliams has come out and apologised for the sketches he's done in Little Britain. Keith Lemon came out last week where he'd apologised for some of the sketches in Bo Selector. And then they're saying Little Britain's been removed from Netflix and iPlayer and everything because of the characters that are portrayed in Little Britain. But then, Peter Morgan came out and said...
Sorry, in Little Britain, he does a disabled. There's a joke about a disabled person as well. So
yeah,
it's
and
comedy, it's satire, and I just think we as long as I don't know, I may be speaking out of turn here, but as long as they're not going around saying this is what I truly believe, I just think sometimes laughter can be a really great way to approach a difficult subject.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the point. I mean, this said. I mean, there's lots of people boycotting Friends at the moment because there's trans and homophobia references throughout. Sort of, I mean, it's 90s comedy, and it's not that it makes it okay now, and some people might be uncomfortable watching that now, but there's people boycotting that to be removed. And we go back to, where do we draw the line? Is it, if they've made one reference to it, do you pull the plug and it's completely forgotten from the ether? And it does. I mean, like I say, it gets to the point where we're starting to dilute the message here that, it's if you watch every TV show, if you watch EastEnders, Coronation Street, there will be a joke in there across the 50 years they've been on television. If you watch the news from sort of start to finish, there will be something in there that's uncomfortable to watch. And it's kind of, where do you draw this sort of, is it a yes or a no? Is it sort of an absolute offence? Either you have done it or you haven't done it. And if you have, but then what are we left with? It's, like you say, it's satire. It's not meant to offend. It's meant to sort of bring light to a situation. And, teaching incidences through humour, like you say, is sometimes the better way than others. But it's just... they were having quite a heated debate about it, and it was just...
for me, it's starting to feel like if we're going down that road again, we're sort of losing the message. We're sort of losing the point. My point and message is this: we need to change institutions, establishments, governments, policy, where it blatantly, disproportionately affects one type of person rather than another. That's what we need to do.
Yeah.
And I think that it is important to recognise things that's happened before. Of course it is. But how are we going to change the things now that have happened before? We can't change them. We need to use them as lessons to be learnt from and move forward in a positive, productive way, which is, like I said, ensuring that the lessons that we've learned from this... Sorry, 1 second. Oh, okay, I'll take that in a second. So, the lessons that we've learned from this are lessons for the betterment of our future. That's all we can do. We can't go back and change the past. It's happened. Learn from it. Don't do it again. That's what we've got to do. Otherwise, we're going to spend, and this is also what happens. When Stevens died, we were told, watershed moment, things are going to change. We're moving forward. Mark Duggan died, again, watershed moment. Every time one of these deaths happen, that gets noted and spoke about. Watershed moment. I'm fed up of talking about it. Let's get round the table. Let's implement true and effective change so that the world is a better place. That's it.
It shouldn't take somebody to die for policies and sort of change to happen. Like you say, it should just be, let's just get together and solve the issues that we know have happened in the past, so we can prevent them from happening again in the future, so nobody has to die in the future. And like you say, I think this is where it's getting a bit diluted, and I worry that it's losing its... It'll go on for maybe 6, 7, 8 days, a week, 2 weeks, and then people go back to, it didn't happen. It's gone now. And then, unfortunately, 6 months, a year down the line, someone else will have to die and go, oh, yes, we support that again now. But, where are these policymakers that are looking at this change? And,
Cool. And that's what my message is. I want to get round the table with leaders. Boris Johnson, Sadiq Khan said something in London about the second. Cool. It's all well and good you saying these things, but it's about you as leaders, as adults, going out there, finding the people, getting those people on board to effect change. The rest of it is just lip service. Don't just talk about it. Actually, physically go and do something about it, and then talk about it afterwards. Because otherwise, just a news bite. It's just lip service. And at the moment, I'm not dealing with lip service no more. Been there, done that. I've been talking about this. I really, really have been for a long time. And as I said, the talking's done now. Times for action. Times for action, implementation, and actual real change. That's when people like myself will go, and relax. I can get back to my normal life. Focus on my son and making sure that he's the perfect, best individual that he could possibly be. Because that's what I should be doing right now. But I'm not.
How much is he aware of what's going on? Does he understand sort of anything that's
there's a couple of points there. He's 9, so he's getting. So we were sitting down, and this is also what to go to show. And I'm a little bit upset with a few news outlets about the way they do things. So we were sitting down watching dinner. News was on because like most caring individuals, we're trying to watch what they said about the COVID and make sure we're doing the right things and all the messages about there. And then they moved on from COVID and started to talk about this. And then from the time the news reporter spoke about it to when they showed the video, must have been about a minute. Now, I couldn't find the remote quick enough. I was like, and then my son's looking at the TV, looking at us like, what the hell's going on? So we turned it off. But we've had to have that conversation with him about that sort of stuff, and speak to him about it and explain to him that, the gentleman lost his life, the policeman did it was a wrong person, etc., etc. But I should not be having to have that conversation with my son yet.
No, you shouldn't have to have that conversation at all. Never mind, sort of yet.
And I'm not. My conversation with my son around this is this: do you feel different? And he says, no, I don't feel different. Cool. The day someone says something to you that makes you feel different, says something to that you are different, you come and tell me who the person is and what they said. Because as far as I'm concerned, as far as your mum's concerned, you are not different. You're exactly the same as everyone else. You have the same rights as everyone else. You can behave the same way as everyone else. No one has the right to tell you, no, you can't do something, unless you're misbehaving, you're doing something wrong. So if you're doing something wrong, then of course they can tell you not to do it. But as long as you're behaving yourself and you're doing the right thing, no one has the right to say to you, you cannot.
And I think that's a message for everybody, isn't it? Regardless of the colour of your skin.
100%. That's my message for everyone. Everyone is equal. Everyone should be treated the same. My mum always says to me, treat people like how you'd like to be treated.
And what's your mum's current view on this, if you don't mind me?
Yeah, she's super upset, and she's. I
can imagine it's bringing back a lot of memories and sort of past. And
it does, and the thing about it brings up memories, and it's spoken about in a way where it's hard. It's super hard because I heard John Boyega call out Stephen and the injustice that happened. Those sort of things just go like, wow, like is it really that? Are we that? And it's not. It wasn't until sort of like a year ago where I went to a school, and this is October, and I'm doing my Black History stuff, and on the board it said Black History Month. Here are Black History heroes, and it had a picture of Stephen, it had a picture of my mum, it had a picture of my dad, and it had a picture of Nelson Mandela and Martin Luther King. And I sat there and I looked at it, and I thought to myself, wow, yeah. We are actually part of Black history. Like, the Black history that gets spoken about in this country, we're part of it. And it's just then, it was like a real weird realization after all the years of me teaching Black history in my own school. But it's all American. It's all American. We don't celebrate the Black history from our own country, the Black heroes, the heroines from our own country. And I was just like, wow, that's what we need to do more about. And that will then give it relevance. And that will then get people to understand that it is important. Because if you speak to most of the Black kids about Black history, they'll tell you, well, it doesn't relate to us. It's about Americans. Like, I'm not American. So therefore, we've got to find ways to give them the ability to feel connected to the past. And this is not just Black kids as well. This is everyone. We all need to get all the kids to understand how we connect to this past and the lessons that we've learned from it and the why it was wrong and why we're not going to behave or act in that way again. That's what we need to learn. That's what we need to
bring a light to it, isn't it? It's
100%. 100%.
Like you say, what we're saying is we don't want all of these to be like flashes in the pan, sort of 60-second bites and put back into the drive, and that's it. You've forgotten about and maybe in 5 years' time, I might replay it once in a PHSE session and sort of tutor time for 5 minutes. It's about bringing sort of what's happened in the past so we can enforce the future. We've got to look at that to enforce change. I mean, I came across something. I mean, there was lots of people kicking fuss up on social media about sort of Black Lives Matter and saying, well, all lives matter. And I came across a quote. I don't know whether you had a look at the questions before before we came on. And I'll just read the quote to you so people who are listening can sort of adhere to it. And it says, if my wife comes to me in obvious pain and asks, do you love me? An answer of, I love everybody would be truthful, but also hurtful and cruel at that moment. And if a co-worker comes to me upset and says, my father's just died, a response of, well, everyone's parents die, will be truthful but hurtful in that moment. So when a friend speaks up in a time of obvious pain and hurt and says, Black Lives Matter, and everyone says, all lives matter, it's truthful, but it's also hurtful and cruel at the same moment. And I thought, that's a really powerful statement there to say, yes, all lives matter, but, as a white man, I've never had to worry about sort of being attacked on the streets because of the colour of my skin. I've never been in fear of anything, of being stopped and searched illegally because I've done something wrong, because I fit the character profile of somebody. And it's, again, that sort of diluting the movement of what's intended from all of the, if something good is going to come from this fallout, it has to be focused on the intended purpose. It can't be, yes, that, but then we'll do B, C, D, E, F, G. Focus on that, get that right first before we start looking, because I don't have to fight for sort of the colour of my skin, because it's how society is. Unfortunately, people who are black are still fighting for that equality, which, the human rights have been around for 800 years. We shouldn't have this conversation in 2020, in my opinion. And it's like, when I put this together, I thought, yes, absolutely honoured to speak to you. But is it like, why should we have to bring this conversation to light again?
Yeah.
I mean, you should have done this once with Stephen. All of the sort of the inequalities of race there, done. Change involved, change happens, tick it off the box, move on with your life. Whereas 100%. Now, because of the issue of skin colour again, and...
But that's what it is, though, isn't it? But that's my hope. This is what we can't eliminate from all this, which is hope. My biggest encouragement is to see, A, so many young people, but B, the cross-section of people who this has gone, hold on a minute now, guys, this is absolutely ridiculous. I feel quite embarrassed as an adult that young people are having to mobilise and do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's then holding us all adults to account of, why haven't we done something about it? So I feel quite embarrassed about that we are having to talk about this and that this is an issue. But you're right. It's a time of need. It's a distress call. Yes, and I did the same. I when this first happened, and for reasons which, maybe another time we can discuss and talk about, I sent a tweet out, RIP George Floyd, hashtag Black Matters, hashtag All Lives Matter. And it wasn't until I watched Beverly Knight's post on Instagram, and she spoke about the same analogy where our house is on fire at the moment, guys. And I'm saying to you, yes, all houses are important, but my house is on fire, and I need your help. That's what it is at the moment. And until the fire is put out, it is something that we need to sort out and do. We need to use, like I keep on saying, this moment in time where we are not living our normal lives. Right about now, today, Wednesday, at 10 to 11, I would normally be at school teaching my lesson with my year 10s or 11s, whoever it is. That's what I'd be normally. We're not doing normal at the moment. We're trying to find a new type of normal. And for me, while we're in that mind space, a new type of normal would be nice that says everyone is important. Black lives do matter. They are as important as any other race, as any other creed. So therefore, they deserve to have a life where they don't need to worry about, because it's something you can't change as well. It's something you can't hide. I can't hide that I'm black. I can hide on the other end of a telephone call. That's happened to me a couple of times where I've spoken to someone on the phone. They've heard me speak, and when I turned up, oh, you're a black guy. Why are you surprised? Oh, because you're what? Because I speak politely, and the Queen's English, and I don't talk like the roadman off the side of the road. It's those sort of things that we need to make sure that are changed, that everyone has the equal right to do whatever they wish to do. And as long as they're good, upstanding citizens that want to contribute, then give them a fair crack of the whip.
Absolutely. I mean, what you were saying there about the house on fire and sort of saying, yeah, all houses matter. I mean, it's the same for the pupils. I'm trying to put into a perspective of the Australian bushfires, perhaps.
Yeah.
You know, Australia's on fire. Well, the Amazon's important, so all forests matter.
Yeah.
We need to focus on the one that's on fire at the moment because they're the one in trouble. They're the one sort of got the problem.
Yeah.
It is the same. It's, you know, yes, all lives matter, and everyone's free to live a life in peace and harmony and so on. But again, I don't have to fight for my privilege, and it's the movement needs to be focused on what's important, and the fact is, white men, white females aren't under threat at the moment. You know, George Floyd was a black man, and he suffered at the hands of a white police officer.
Yeah,
I mean, do you think perhaps the uproar would have been different if it was a black police officer and a white detainee? Do you think there would have been a similar sort of outcry?
Yeah, I think the problem with the police, because this is, you know, the analogy I use here is, you know, in countries where there isn't much. So, for instance, in Africa, mainly black people. So, therefore, the police force is mainly black. Is there problems in the African police force? Yes, there is. Corruption, abuse of power. That's where that institution has problems. So we need to look at that institution. We need to work out why it has this problem, and then we need to fix it. That's what we need to do. And that's what I'm saying to you. It's a policy. It's a procedure. It's an inherent way of doing things that we've always done that we now need to change.
Absolutely.
All this is all about.
I mean, I started working with the Association of Citizenship Teachers, and we're looking at how can we implement, at least at a subsidiary level at school, how can we implement a curriculum that focuses on everything that we need to do? So if you want to sit around sort of our table, so to speak, if we can use that analogy, of course, socially distanced tabling, you know, let's put a policy together. Let's put a curriculum that matters together, so that's at least that sort of box is ticked and we can do something about it.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sure people at sort of your foundation would sort of welcome the chance at sort of creating some stuff again. Not using Stephen's name to sort of raise the profile, but at least doing something in Stephen's name that remembers exactly what you were saying at the start. You know, the big brother that was caring, that was sort of always wanting to do something positive.
Yeah.
And if we can do something small at the very start and then watch it grow.
Yeah, definitely.
No, absolutely, because it needs to change, and I'm very much with you that something needs to be done, and now is as good as time at any time, because why wait 5 years? Why wait 10 years? Why wait for something else to happen?
Yeah.
Something has happened. Let's start the ball. Let's start that snowflake into a snowball, into an avalanche.
100%. But that's why I'm saying, you know, another interesting one is like lots of people ask me, why don't we learn it in our syllabus? Why can't we learn it at GCSE? Well, it would be beautiful. Like in history as a GCSE on A level, like I keep on saying, like I thought history is about giving someone the skills and techniques and tools to be able to investigate, go away, research, arguments for, against, newspapers, papers, books, people about a particular topic, and then summarize that topic, showing arguments for and against, and then coming to a conclusion of where you stand in that topic. Well, brilliant. Then allow the students to research whatever topic they want. That then gives them a sense of ownership. So if they want to go and research, you know, where does my family name come from, they can do that in the context of a GCSE, you know, in the context of school, in the context of learning and making themselves a more rounded individual. So, you know, I'm really hopeful that I can, as I said, with the platform that I have, with the people that I know, start to speak to these institutions and these businesses and say to them, look, why can't you do this? What is the problem in doing that? where do the pitfalls of that lie? Because I can't see no pitfalls, because the students are still learning the skills that you need to learn. They still have an aptitude of showing that they're a good historian and they can have a good argument. So therefore, why can we not base it around that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in citizenship, we do something similar to that. We have an active citizenship project, and they are free to choose whatever they want and run with it. But the exam board set it up as sort of enforced at local level, at community level, and great. If we change the community, that's wonderful. But some of these issues need to be widespread. It's not, if it's happened in my community, it happens in your community. If it, So I mean that would be something to sort of shoot the wind at and put some ideas down on paper. But I would definitely welcome that opportunity.
And as well, we as educators, I don't know if you've seen the stuff about Jean Elliott, the Jean Elliott stuff that she's done. Now she's a woman. She did an experiment. Where she, in her classroom, to get her kids to understand about racism, because it was a mainly white. It was 100% white.
Oh, was this the doll experiment?
Sorry?
Was this the doll experiment with the white doll and the black doll?
No. This was, I might have done that one as well, but this was the experiment where she said, if you've got brown eyes, you sit on one side of the class, but if you've got blue eyes, you sit on the other side.
It's the old sort of Jane Brown study from 70s, I think. I did it in a psychology experiment of, those with sort of brown eyes are the rotten apples, and you don't speak to them and you treat them differently, and the blue eyes get extra playtime, and they get we've looked at the sort of the social experiments of that, and it's amazing how quickly that idea starts to take hold of someone. But again, we go back to the point of that's learned behaviour. If you're taught to do something because of eye colour, hair colour, height, weight, skin colour, that's what you're going to believe. And some people will openly defend themselves saying, but my opinion is right.
Yeah, definitely.
Because that's what they've been brought up with, in the same way of, well, my opinion is that's wrong, because that's how I've been brought up. Yeah. And it's like saying we've got to teach everybody. Yeah,
meet in the common ground of the middle of saying, okay, cool, I can understand your point of view. You've not changed my mind, but I understand your point of view. That's the bit that we need to teach young people.
Yeah.
I'm not asking for you overnight to change your point of your fundamental essence of who you are as a person. I'm asking you to have empathy for someone else. Walk a mile in another man's shoes and then tell me about the man. That's what we're asking to do. And that's what I'm saying. As educators, I believe that's our job to do for the young people, to show them, look, there's going to be times where you're going to think something, someone else is going to think something else. And all I'm asking you to do is to consider what the other person's saying, how they feel, what they're saying, why are they saying that? And just experience that for a while before you say, do you know what, I'm going to stick with my own point of view, because I still think that's right.
Because sometimes people are too quick to go, yes, but. Yeah. And they jump in without thinking about it.
Yeah.
Because they perceive it as an argument rather than as a discussion.
Sure do, definitely.
And I think that's the key message there on, like you say, have empathy with people and understand them. You don't have to agree with them. No. There's going to be, we're free to believe and disagree and agree on certain issues, but
100%.
Understand where that person's coming from and why they're coming from that position. And we could spend hours and hours sort of deliberating the ins and outs of everything, but I won't keep you for much longer, because I know I've taken up an hour of your time, and I know you've got probably an action-packed day. But honestly, thank you so much for joining me, and I'd certainly like to do it again, sort of sometime in the distant future, Sue. To start
this time, probably kids involved this time as well would be great.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, if once we can do that, absolutely. I mean, do you do school visits, or do you?
Yeah, I do school visits, and that's the thing about it. We are now in a weird sort of place where we don't know how things. So I say, so for March, I had a year full of school visits, company visits, like the whole shebang. Like, it was really, really good. And like I said, I felt like this year there was a sea of change going on. Conversations just started changing. People's mindsets just started changing. From some of the people, conversations I was having with people. And I was just like, wow, like we were on a sea change here. And then COVID happened, and I was just like, wow, that's just put the curve number, put the ball right back at one now. Because as far as everyone's concerned now, it's the recovery of the nation that we need to consideration. race and culture, that's going to be the back of the line again, sort of thing. And then George Floyd losing his life, my condolences. I was horrified. It's rocked my world. It's rocked my world. Since that's happened, it's rocked my world in such a way that nothing before has rocked my world in that way for a very long time. So, but from this now, like I said, it's like someone's poured gasoline onto my fire now, and I'm just burning to enforce change. Like I said, my son is not going to fight this battle. He's not going to have this weight on his shoulder, and it is a weight. It is a weight, and it is a boulder to carry. But yeah, if I've got to stand up, my back strong to carry it, then I will do that, and I want to do it to the best of my ability. Because, yeah, as I said, now's the time. Now's the time. Let's go.
Whilst we're talking about this new normal, why can't the new normal be with change?
Yep.
Perfect opportunity. If we're pressing the reset button, everything that we know, the way that we walk down the streets changing, the way that we go into shops are changing. Well, why not the way that we treat between people and public change?
Let's
do it. Let's put some change together.
Yeah.
But no, Stuart, thank you so much for your time. I'll make sure that I tweet out the link to you so you can forward it on.
Please. And I'll retweet up as well. As I said, just to all the kids, like I said, it starts with you. Like you are the hope. You are the driving force now to hold us adults to account. That's what I want young people to do. Hold the adults around you to account. What are you doing? How are you helping? And I'm not asking to do it in an aggressive way, or a derogatory way. Just ask the question: how are we helping? How are you helping? How are we going to ensure that this time things are different for forever? That's what we need young people to do, because the more they do that, the more we as adults have to get things right this time.
100%. Like you say, it's not a children's fight. It's the adults' fight. We've got to change before they do, because otherwise we're just passing on our philosophies and imagery to them, isn't it? And and the cycle starts again. And then your son's got to be in the same position that you are right now, and he shouldn't have to be in that position at all.
No,
not at all.
He's not going to be. I'm going to affirm it into his life. He's not going to be. He's not going to be fighting this fight. And his surname is Lawrence, so therefore, God rest my soul when I get there. But I don't want people to look at him for that. Yeah. So that's what it is to me. He's not to be looked at for that. He's to be looked at to be the next leader, the next prime minister, the next CEO of the next blue chip company. That's what he needs to be looked at. Mm-hmm. And rightly free so for all the hard work and all the dedication he's putting through his life to get him there. So it's not out of any given token. Mm-hmm. He'll have to work hard to get there, and that's what I'm trying to instill in him, that hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. That's my mantra to my son. Like, it ain't about skin, it's about hard work. You work hard, and all the good things out of life will come out of it.
100% agree. I couldn't put that any better myself, Stuart. No, honestly, thank you so much for your time. And again, I'll be in touch shortly.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I could shake your hand, I would.
Shake.
Should we do an involuntary fist bump?
Oh yeah, fist bump. There we go, buddy man. Fist bump,
yeah. But no, honestly, thank you for your time. I know you've.
Thank you for allowing me to have the platform. Thank you for what you're doing as a teacher as well, because I need more teachers like you. That's what it's about. That's why I do what I do on Twitter. That's why when I see positive comments about Stephen or people trying to do Steve, I see where I can help and fit in to amplify what you're doing, because that's what it's about. We need to amplify the good people and mute the people that are negative. They need to go on mute. Like, that's what it's about for me.
100%. I mean, we can say we'll do it again in a couple of weeks, and we'll see if we can actually say, do you know what? Yeah, change has started to happen, and we'll.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I've got some more bits of press to do, so keep your eyes peeled. But that's where I'm pressing at the moment. I need to sit down at the table. We need to sit down at the table with our leaders, and I need to hear, so I can relay to the people what the change is going to look like. How are we going to do this? And that's my message. And for all the channels and all that I'm doing now, that's what I'm saying. I don't want to talk to a minister. I want to talk to Boris. You're the main guy. Whoever's the head of the food chain, I want to sit down and talk to you. And I want to understand from you what we are going to do about this once and for all to effect change. So your legacy and your mantra could be, do you know what? Boris Johnson was the one that affected change. If that's what you want your legacy to be, cool. Or your legacy could be Boris Johnson had a perfect opportunity to do something and he didn't do it. Oh well.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? That's
But
what I am.
I hope I do speak to you again soon, because
Yeah, 100%. Let's keep talking.
Absolutely. I mean, from when I covered Stephen's story in Citizenship, it was always something that I wanted to build into my curriculum, because I thought it was a vital piece of history that needed to be there. Especially all of the sort of the double jeopardy rules that came out of it, and I thought it was really sort of a very, very good case study, if you don't mind me calling that. Just to show my pupils, what's gone on in history, and it comes back to that argument again. We need to see what's gone on in history so we know how to move forward. But let's hopefully we move forward, and hope again when I speak to you again in a couple of weeks or months or in the distant future, that we can say that something has started.
Yes, definitely. That's my hope. Definitely, that's my hope.
Thank you from me, and thank you from my pupils, just for
as I said, guys, doing the good work, keep working hard, and work hard, because even if you've got an ounce of talent about something, there's someone else somewhere else that's looking at you going, I want to be like him, I want to be better than her. So therefore, you've just got to keep working at it. That's what it is. And I've also to say as well, if you've got any particular pupils you feel that have asked a good question or has done something in particular poignant, then I do have these little. I've got one badge that says SL on it. I don't know if you can see that.
Absolutely.
And I've got this other one for Stephen Lawrence Day as well, which I can send you in the post to your students that you think have maybe done something or said or add something to the discussion that you think's poignant, just to say to them as a little memento from me.
I mean, is it my badge collection that's I've got you going there?
And I should send you one as well, sir. I should send you two as well.
Thank you very much.
I'll send you a
nice little subtle hint there. Just put them on display for you.
Don't forget me.
Yeah, I want one too.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll drop you a line, and we'll sort that out, and we'll sort of come back in a couple of weeks and see what's happened.
Excellent.
Thanks, Stuart. Thanks for your time.
Oh, thanks very much. Have a good day, buddy.
And you.
All right, see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Wow, what a guy. Hopefully you found that useful. And again, if you've got any more questions about the Black Lives Matter movement, or any questions for Stuart, we said there we'll get back together in a couple of weeks. I'm in contact with Stuart. So if you want to send in the questions, you can use the hashtag CUSEpi2, which is down there. And also you can follow Stuart and myself on Twitter. I hope that you have found this insightful. And again, if you've got any questions, follow the hashtag, follow the podcast, and I will see you again this time next week when we will look at another Cit Up Straight. Thanks very much for listening.